This is Nan McKay, and I would like to introduce you today to Tiara M. Tucker. Tiara is a trailblazing young woman who's known as an empowerment connector. She was featured in Black Enterprise as one of 10 amazing Black women making moves right now, and she was selected as one of the 40 under 40 honorees in Dallas. She not only works for a Fortune 500 company, but she's founder and CEO of Tiara PR Network and has founded a nonprofit, Speak That movement. So welcome, Tiara.
Hello, hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to talk with you today.
Well, why don't you give us your one tip for today, and then we'll get into the meat of this.
Will do. So I would say, believe in yourself. That is just it. There's no better time than now with all that's going on around us, all that's going in within us, to just believe in ourselves, believe in our dreams, our goals, and all those things that we really want to manifest in our lives. And before we can ask anybody else to believe in us, we have to believe in ourselves. So that's a tip that I've been saying to myself a lot, and I want to share with your audience.
Well, I think that is a great tip. And I think as we do the interview, you're going to show that you absolutely not just talk the talk, but you walk the walk.
That's right.
So, Tiara, you seem to be kind of running fast and playing many roles. You're a communication strategist, a speaker, a coach, a community advocate. It goes on, doesn't it? And a social justice and mental health activist, which is really important. So tell us about your entrepreneurial journey and some of your goals. Like how did you start? Where did you come from? Where are you going? That kind of thing.
Yes, yes. You know, I always laugh internally when people acknowledge that I have like a lot of titles and a lot of things. And I like to just say, you know what? I'm the wearer of many tiaras, right? Because I'm really not a title person. I actually, if we could scratch all the titles, to me, it's more about what are you doing, not what you are. And so for me, you know, on paper, I do have a nice lengthy list, but in the grand scheme of things, at the most foundational point, I would say that I just love to empower people. I love to connect people, and I love to do it via communications and communicating. And so ever since I was a little girl, I've always just had this passion for communications. I love to write. I love to edit. I love to speak. I love to just support others when they were doing those things as well. I love to host events and create events. Like, I love a blank slate of paper and then making something happen. So when I went off to college, I went to Illinois State University. I got my degree in public relations. I was very active on my college campus with just PR related work, events, and even some social justice efforts within my sorority. And then when I graduated from college, I decided to start my professional career, where I've been for almost 17 years now. And I've been in the public affairs space for over a decade. So I was continuing down this communications path and this PR path. And then I got a master's in communications. Like, I just kept wanting to learn more. And so then you fast forward, and I found myself just doing things like hosting events, creating events, helping people with their communications, and coaching people through things that they were working on. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to put a name on what I'm doing, right? I'm going to put a name on this. And so after thinking about different titles and names for my business, I decided to just call it Tiara PR Network. So the network is the word that I love to have at the end, because my network can consist of all of the people I've met over the years, you know, all of the businesses that I've supported or who might have supported me, those subject matter resources out there. And even you're part of my network now. And so I just started doing more in the Tiara PR network space. And then I was able to do more in the social justice space as I was working on PR efforts for some of the leading civil rights attorneys. And then I just found myself just doing what I love to a point where I wasn't even overthinking it. Like, I love how you said it was like I'm moving fast, but for me, I feel like I'm moving slow. Like, I feel like there's so much more that I haven't even accomplished or even conquered. And then in the midst of all of that, I decided to take my effort, which is called Speak That Movement, to another level. So Speak That was something that I started back when I was living in Illinois, and I'm now in Dallas. I've been in Dallas for almost 10 years. But back in Illinois, I just wanted to have an event that will be an empowering and entertaining community event in Bloomington, Illinois. And I decided to name it Speak That. And when I had the first event, it was a nice amount of people there. It was in the newspaper. After I had that first one and I saw the impact that it made on people, I decided to just do more. People were partnering with me. I did more events, moved to Dallas, pause. And then I decided to bring out Speak That movement to Dallas. And so more recently, I decided to make it a nonprofit organization that focuses on women empowerment, mental health, and social justice. So I say all that to say my common thread with all of those things that I just described is my passion for communications, my passion for empowering people, my passion for connecting people, and helping to make an impact in this world.
Well, we're going to dig into a lot of those things quite a bit deeper. What would you say is your mission as an empowerment connector? And I'm asking that because when I heard that term, I thought, oh wow, that's what I do too. So maybe we're both an empowerment connector in a way. Well, what's your vision of what that really is?
Yeah, so you know what, I was playing with words as people in the PR communications industry do, and I was like, I got all these titles, all these names. Like, what's one word or two words that could sum it all up? And after much thought, I just thought of this empowerment connector. So I don't know if it's coined. I probably need to make it mine, and then you can use it as well. But I came up with that because I was like, well, what is my passion with everything that I'm doing? And I love the empowerment, right? How empowerment can help others find something deep within and believe in themselves, believe they can accomplish whatever, believe that they can, embark on their journey and have success or live their best life, whatever it might be. But then the connector piece is how I'm like a vessel, my efforts, my platforms connect people. So whether it's a PR campaign that I'm working on, I'm connecting a client with their audience. Whether it's an event for the community that I'm working on, I'm connecting, people together. So I just pulled those two words together, and that's how I describe being an empowerment connector. I do it with the novelties that I create. When I'm a guest on a show, like right now, we're connecting people that are listening. So that's just a little example of what made me just come up with Empowerment Connector.
Well, I love it. I love it. I may have to be your grandma connector.
You sure can. Hey, maybe we need to start a brand of empowerment connectors.
Now, I am so impressed. You have an MS degree. That's really good. But you also have all these certifications. And I thought, wow, this is somebody that is a continual learner. So tell me what those are in. And then why did you pursue those particular ones?
Yes, well, thank you for that. So outside of the BS degree and the MS degree, and I'll be brief with this one, but back in 2019, I found myself really, really dealing with anxiety, right? My mental health. And I had to pause because sometimes we're going so fast in life. We're wanting to just accomplish this, do this, have this great career, have this great family, or whatever it might be. And I just needed to pause and be still and focus on me. And so what I decided to do, I took a month off of work. So thank God I had the time. And I just said, I want to focus on Tiara, right? I've been moving and moving all these years of my life, and I just want to be still. So I decided to go to Denver, Colorado. So I went to Denver for a few days. And I mean, no social media, no phone, no TV. It was just my moment to just get refreshed, renewed, gain clarity over the next, years of my life. And so in doing so, while I was in Denver, I was introduced to this term of mindfulness. Like, I had never heard of mindfulness, but it was such a common this term and that just kept popping up throughout Denver. I practiced meditation, mindfulness. I did a mindfulness hike, mindfulness yoga, so many things. Like, it just kept popping up. So when I came back to Dallas after my getaway, I just was so intrigued by this term mindfulness. So I just started doing research, and I found that there was an opportunity to get a certificate in mindfulness. So that was just my way to learn more about it. So that was the first certificate in mindfulness. So then after I got that one, which was great, I wanted to learn more about life coaching, because people were telling me that I was acting like a coach, and I was doing things like a coach would do. So I said, well, let me learn more about it. So I got a certificate in life coaching. And that is something that I can apply to my PR firm as well as, my nonprofit. So then those were the two. And then I embarked upon a journey of getting a certificate at Harvard University. So last year, I completed one course, which was called Nonprofit Leadership and Community Engagement. And so I was so fulfilled after that one course that I decided to just pause. I may go back, I don't know. But after that one, I was so intrigued by what I was learning in the nonprofit and the community engagement space. So then I took the opportunity this year to get a diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace certificate. So those are just a few of the certificates and just the reasoning why. I mean, I feel like we have to continuously learn, and we have to really put our money where our mouth is, or our mouth where our money is, both of them, right? And it's easy to talk about things, but I want to be a very legit person where when you see me walking it, I can talk it. When you see me talking it, I can walk it. And one way that I do that is by continuously learning and hearing from others. Because in these, for instance, with the Harvard course, I was in a course, virtual course with people from all around the world. That was priceless.
Well, what actually led you to starting your own company?
Yeah, it was just really me doing the work and just doing the things that I was doing, and just deciding, you know what, I want to put a name on it. I want to make it official. And then that started with me getting the name, then the logo, and then the brand colors were a give me, because everybody knows I love red. So, and then I decided to get a website. And then from the website, I suddenly was just putting Tiara PR Network on things that I was working on. I don't even feel like I have been 100% aggressive with putting Tiara PR Network out there as much as I perhaps could, but I feel like through word of mouth and things like that, it has received, a nice amount of attention. And I have had people that have just come my way. And so it's been a blessing. And then the nonprofit, really just focusing on women empowerment, mental health, and social justice, because that is my lived experience. I didn't appreciate the power of focusing on mental health until I was at a point where I thought I was just living my best life in Dallas, right? Life was great. I was having a ball until I didn't even really connect with myself anymore, right? And so that's when I realized I wasn't alone. And then as I started to talk to other women, I realized there's so many of us, whether it's in corporate America or entrepreneurs, whether there's young ladies or older women, it doesn't matter. Mental health is so prevalent. And then considering what we faced last year in 2020, from the COVID-19 to social unrest, mental health was at another heightened level. And so Speak That movement just allows me to focus on the social justice, the mental health, and still empowering people.
Well, I think sometimes the number one reason why people are afraid to pivot from and really go from one to another, from a career to business and entrepreneurship, I think the biggest fear that they have is financial. So do I understand that you kept your, what I call your job,
Yeah.
and you started over here, Tiara PR Network, as kind of a side hustle at the time?
Yes, yeah, and I still have the career, and that's another thing that that I'm really going to be more intentional on really highlighting, because I know for me, I would get anxiety when I would hear people like, "Oh, you need to quit your job and focus on this," and I'm like, I don't want to quit my job yet. I like getting paid every other Friday, right? Like, but I think that unfortunately, there's pressure sometimes on we have to do one or the other. Well, okay, I get it. Maybe at a point in time, people will choose one or the other. But why can't we do the things that we love? Why can't we, have a career that we love and also have a side hustle that we love and have a nonprofit that we love? And so I get that a lot from people, like, how are you doing all three? And I tell people, you know what, sometimes I don't even know how I do all three. But the thing is, I have that common denominator where it all feels like it's just a part of me and my DNA. So, yep. And I agree with you. My fear probably of leaving corporate America is I need to get paid, right? But I also am in a position where I can say that at this point in my career, I enjoy what I'm doing in corporate America. I enjoy it. And as long as I can enjoy what I'm doing, and I can be a blessing in the workplace and outside of the workplace, then I'm just going to keep on moving to the best of my ability.
Well, part of it is you have to have enough bandwidth. If you have kids at home, especially real little kids, it's harder and harder to just find the time to be able to do it. But when you have the opportunity to do it and you have the time, why not? Partly because at your age, you're not really totally settled on what you want to do for the rest of your life, I'm guessing, right?
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I mean, you can still change or do whatever else you decide. Of course, I think I can change at whatever age, but I think it's having that option, that's really important, to be able to have choices, even internally. Where do you think this anxiety comes from? I'm just curious, because I think, is it because there's just a lot going on? Or I know a lot of people talk to me about the imposter syndrome. And, is it any of that? Or what's that around the anxiety, do you think?
For people in general, or?
Well, for you.
Well, I think for me, I don't experience the anxiety now that I was experiencing at that time. And the reason why I can say that is because I learned how to deal with it, right? I learned that it's okay to, first of all, not be okay, right? It's okay to slow down. It's okay to not feel like you have to make a decision of this or that, right? Or I learned that, it's not about perfection, it's about progression. I learned about the mindfulness tactics, and where, hey, I can just sit down, slow down, and sit in my chair and meditate if I need to. Or I can just go take a walk and just observe what's going on around me. I can be more focused on the present day and the impact that I'm making today, and not be so focused on the future. But at that time, when I was experiencing it, and I didn't even know what it was, like I was in denial, but I didn't understand what I was experiencing because it was so foreign to me. And I also didn't know what I could do to, alleviate it. So now I'm in a place now where, when even those thoughts, we're always going to have thoughts, right? We're always going to have thoughts of what am I doing this for? What's the point? I quit, I give up, right? Imposter syndrome. Oh my God, that's so real with women, right? And that imposter syndrome kicks in. Oh no, I can't do this. Oh my God, this isn't legit. Oh my God, I'm not real. What will people think? But that goes back to my opening tip. We have to believe in ourselves, right? Because sometimes we're thinking about things that nobody else is even thinking about, right? And so I just think those are just some of the reasons why some people are dealing with anxiety. And I think that what 2020, and I don't want to keep referencing 2020, but I just have to add this. I think that 2020 forced people to just slow down, right? You can't go anywhere. You don't even know. We didn't know what was going on in the world. So we were forced to slow down. And while we were slowing down, that is why so many businesses were birthed. So many books were birthed. So many nonprofits were birthed. So many major corporations learned to evolve. But look at the impact of just slowing down. And I think that at least as I think about anxiety or whatever it might be, it can be, a part of it is the pressure of just having to have it all figured out, not wanting to screw up, not wanting to mess up, but just slow down.
Chill.
Take a chill pill.
Yeah. Well, I love your saying it's not about perfection, it's about progression. And I think if we applied that to the imposter syndrome and anxiety and a lot of the things that even kids in their teens are dealing with today, I think it might make everything a little bit better because it's part of that slowing down. Stop worrying quite as much about stuff.
Yeah. And even with imposter syndrome, I've dealt with it. I still deal with it. But you know what? I just think we just have to tell ourselves, like, who am I not to do this, right?
Yeah.
What happens if I don't do this in life? What solution am I providing to someone else's problem? So maybe we can't reach 1 million people or 1,000 or 100, but if we can reach one person, we're not an imposter. We're doing, what we were led to do. So,
yeah, that's true. But this kind of ties into it. And in your journey as a coach, you talk about having uncomfortable conversations. So tell me what you mean by that and how you deal with it.
Yeah. So I believe that there's so many uncomfortable conversations. We can just line up a list of them. Anxiety is uncomfortable, right? To admit people that are just doing their thing, life is great, that you're silently suffering with something, that's uncomfortable, depending on who you might be sharing it with. Hence, why it's such a taboo topic or such a conversation that some people would rather avoid. But then also, as we think about, the social unrest, how uncomfortable was that for some people? I mean, I'm just going to go there if you allow me to. How uncomfortable was it for some races, some leaders, to be in a position, probably for the first time in their lives or careers, where they needed to talk about the things that were going on in America? Conversations that were once only held in the privacy of one's own home, in between their personal circles. But now, no matter what channel you turn to, no matter what radio station you listen to, no matter how many times you went on or off of social media, you saw what was going on in America as it pertains to police brutality, racism, discrimination. And this isn't just black and white, right? It's with sexual preference. It's with people with disabilities. It's with so much. And now these people are now needing to lead organizations and lead teams and don't even know where to begin, don't even know what to say. And so I've had people that reached out to me like, any guidance. And you know what? I will be very transparent. I know people personally who were like, I'm not interested in helping these people. And I'm saying these not to just I'm saying that as a way of the people that might have been reaching out to them. They didn't want to, because there's like, oh, so now you want to understand, right? But I didn't take that stance. I said, if anybody comes to me and wants me to help them, coach them, I'm going to do that. Because you can't have it on one side and say you want change or you want this, but then not be willing to help the people that are needing to understand. And so that's what I mean by difficult conversations, those conversations that are uncomfortable. People aren't really used to them, don't know what to say. And I moderated panels for other organizations. I was a guest speaker on so many podcasting platforms since last year and even this year, talking about some of these topics. And the main thing that I just would say is that sometimes with an uncomfortable conversation, the best thing that people can do is probably just listen. Not everybody needs to have the answer. Not everybody needs to depend on one person or one group of people to know the answer, but it's really just taking the time to just listen and listen to understand.
Yeah. Now, you actually helped lead both PR and communication efforts for some of the most high-profile civil rights, social justice law firms known around the world. Tell me a little bit about that experience.
Definitely. So a couple of years ago in particular, so I was having a Speak That Movement event in Dallas, and one of my guest speakers, he was actually the keynote speaker, was a civil rights attorney. So definitely one of the most well-known civil rights attorneys, hands down, doing amazing work in the social justice and police brutality space. And so he was my guest speaker. We had an amazing event. I mean, he was powerful. The audience was captivated. And he also opened my eyes and everybody's eyes to what's really going on. Like, you know, sometimes you think you know, but nah, it's just so much more that goes on that doesn't make the media. So shortly after my event, he reached out to me. It was actually the next day. And he said, hey, would you be interested in doing PR for me? And so I paused and, you know, we ended up talking more and communicating about it. And then I ended up being his PR director. So shortly after, shortly after I said yes, that night he asked me to work on another case. And then within days, there was a major murder that took place. And he was retained. So that was, I would say, one of my first endeavors on that large of a platform where, I mean, within minutes of shooting out that press release that I sent to the media, I had every major media network in the country calling, texting, or emailing me, from CNN, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, you name it. And it was just like, wow. And so I worked on that case. And then from there were other cases that I worked on. And that experience working with that attorney, and then that led to working with some other attorneys. And I still, from time to time, get calls from attorneys who have some high profile cases. And so that experience just really opened my eyes to some of the systemic injustices, some of the things that victims go through, just some of the things that families go through. And when I tell you, if you catch a case that makes it to national news, because they all don't, I guarantee you there are dozens more that just didn't make it, right? And I'm talking about that same week. I mean, we would get emails, calls, and texts nearly every day from families who were impacted by social injustice, But again, not every case is going to make national news. Not every case is going to make local news. And when it does, you know, the news cycle can be so short. There are so many cases that have never been resolved, where justice was never achieved. So although we see what looks like wins from time to time, there's so many more that are just not receiving the justice that they deserve. So definitely an eye-opening experience for me.
Well, you have a YouTube channel, and I watched it, called Speak Their Stories. And that's kind of what you were talking about there, weren't you?
Yeah, so thank you for bringing that up. So one of the efforts that I created last year, this was actually a result of me taking the course at Harvard last year. We had to work on a project that focused on community engagement. And so I chose, you know, the social justice, mental health aspect. And so I just, honestly, it was an idea that just came to me. I call that my godly deposits, where I get this idea and I'm like, I got to make this happen. And so what happened is I brought together a team. I picked some people that I wanted to be on this team with me. And then we basically created what I call Speak Their Stories. But what led to the Speak Their Stories is while I was taking the course, a mother, and I'll say her name, Miss Arlene Robertson, she reached out to me. She randomly found my number and she called my PR line. And what is significant about this story, and I'll be brief, is that I remember I was literally in my living room, and I remember I was on my way to my prayer closet. I have a prayer closet upstairs, and I was about to go in my prayer closet just to have my, you know, my me time. And as I was walking up the stairs, my phone rang on my PR line, and I answered, and it was Miss Arlene. And basically, she was telling me that she came across my number for a social justice event that I was a part of. And she was telling me that her son was murdered by police in Louisiana, and that, you know, she just hasn't been able to get any help. Nobody answers her calls. And so we just started talking. And when she was talking, I just felt something. And I didn't know what I was supposed to do, right? I just felt like I needed to do something. So we talked, and she told me more about her story and her situation. And then at the end of the call, I remember saying, can I pray for you? And she said, of course. So I prayed, and I remember asking God, what do you want me to do? I don't know what to do, right? And so I say that to say, I decided that I wanted to focus on her for my project. And so that's where Speak Their Stories got birthed, because I wanted to tell the stories of people that were impacted by social injustice, but told from the voice and viewpoint of the women that they left behind. So in this particular way, I told the story of Arlene and her daughter as they shared the story of DeViry Robertson. So that was my first executive produced video. So I created that, the concept, and had an amazing team. And so that was launched on DeViry's birthday.
And one of those that has not really been resolved, right?
It has not been resolved.
Yeah.
And even to this day, like she and I, we still stay in touch. And that was just an example of, you know, we may not be able to change the world, but that woman, Arlene, had been praying for somebody to just listen to her, for someone to just care about what she was going through and how she lost her son. And so, and here I am, I just wanted to help people. And so those are just examples of sometimes we might be the solution to someone else's problem, and you never know how things are going to line up. And that experience was just it was so beautiful. And it was also hard, because as I was interviewing her, preparing for the production, she and her daughter had to relive the moments of what transpired leading up to his death. But they found hope. And for them, the hope was in knowing that some people cared enough just to ask and get the story out. And so, so that just that was the first one. And so my mission is to do more. I want to tell more stories from the voice and viewpoint of women.
Tell me how you affect change, because a lot of what you're talking about are situations that require change, that require action in some way. How do you affect change, and how can other people affect change? Listening is one. That's one of the things you said that I think is really important. Publicizing it in the sense from a different point of view, like the mother's point of view, the sister's point of view. What else can be done to affect change?
Yeah. I think that there are so many ways that we can, affect change. And for one, I think that's identifying, what do you care about, right? And we might care about lots of things, right? But is there something in particular that is like, man, because we can't save the world, right? That's just not going to happen, right? One person cannot save the world, but one person can make a huge difference in the world. And that might simply be identifying, man, what do I care about? And that might begin with, what do I want to learn more about, right? Because in the process of doing research and learning about different areas where change is needed, people may discover that there's something in particular that they just want to focus on, right? And that could be, people can focus on something that they dealt with as a child, and now they want to help as an adult based on their experience by making an impact in somebody else's life. And so I would say it's, focus on what you care about, because that helps, right? It's so much easier to be engaged and want to be committed when you care about the cause, right? And then I would say the other thing is, just know that it's not about, as I said earlier, impacting 1 million people, 1 billion. It could be one person. It could be one family. It could be that person that might have been praying or crying or ready to give up or was going through a depression, but because of your actions or your words or you simply caring, that turned that entire person's life around. And then as a result, now that person is going to want to do more and give more. And then it becomes a snowball effect. But I just think that those are just some of the things, like, think about what you care about and be willing to learn about different things, right? Because you might enjoy the journey of learning about other things and other people. And I just want to add one more thing here. And I'm not knocking it, but sometimes people think that writing the check is the solution. Now, the checks are needed, okay? They are needed, but don't wait until you can write a big check to make a difference. Your check might be $5 or $10 to a worthy cause. Your way to give back is just giving an hour of your time to an organization. So there's so many different ways to make a difference. And it's not about always big. It could be something so small that can go a long way.
We've talked about so many interesting things. And one of the things that I will put in your write-up, your guest write-up, is what Tiara as an acronym stands for. You've made up a saying for each one of the letters of your name, right? I think you have, and I know where it is, and I'm going to put it right in your writing.
Well, you remind me where
I'm going to put it right in your write-up.
Oh, yes, you're talking about one of my articles?
It must have been because I do a lot of research on people.
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
I probably know things you don't even remember you said.
Yes. Okay, I will be honest and transparent. That was in an article. I was featured in an article. And as I was just trying to empower and encourage the readers, I created an acronym. But that was an in the moment acronym that I created. And oh gosh, I don't even remember what I said. I bet I would take time, probably invest in yourself.
I'll find it.
Yes.
I'll use it. Because it was great. You did a great job.
Thank you.
Let me ask you one last question. What do you envision for your future?
Yeah. Thank you. Honestly, that to me is the most empowering question that anybody can ever ask somebody. You know, what are your dreams? What are your goals? So I envision continuing to make a difference and an impact. I envision Speak That movement just growing expeditiously with structure, with systems, with support. I envision Speak That movement being a well-known, recognized, and respected nonprofit organization that will continue to focus on women's empowerment, mental health, and social justice with our efforts such as Speak Their Stories, Speak That Talks, and the other efforts that we're going to actually create and announce in the near future. I envision a future where there's an actual physical building that I own, and that building becomes a community resource center, because we're going to get back out in the world again. And, you know, there's going to be a time where we don't want to do virtual. We want to come somewhere where we can truly feel connected. I envision blessing more and more families and more individuals. I envision Tiara PR Network growing and having a fully staffed team where we are really making a difference. And I envision leaving a legacy. And I believe that my legacy has already started. I'm just walking in integrity. I'm walking in purpose. And I envision at my funeral that people are going to know that I did my best and it was a job well done.
And that's all anybody could ask for.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tiara. I love
Thank you. Wow, this was amazing. And thank you for all that you do. And I speak nothing but abundance and blessings and amazing connections for you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.